Board of Trustees of the California State University please come to order? Trustees, please unmute your audio for roll call. Ms. Kiss, please call the roll.
Hey, Trustee Abrego.
Here.
Trustee Adamson.
I'm still here.
Trustee Arambula.
Here.
Trustee Carney.
Here.
Chancellor Castro.
Here.
Trustee Clark.
Present.
Trustee Day. Trustee Fagan.
Here.
Trustee Farrar.
Here.
Trustee Furstenberg.
Here.
Trustee Fong.
Here.
Trustee Kames. Here. Chair Kimball. Lieutenant Governor Kanalakis.
Present.
Thank you. Trustee McGrory.
Here.
Governor Newsom. Trustee Ortiz-Morfitt.
Here.
Trustee Reyes.
Here.
Speaker Rendon. Trustee Sebelius.
Here.
Trustee Simon.
Here.
Trustee Steinhauser.
Here.
Trustee Taylor.
Here.
And Superintendent Thurmond. And we have a quorum, Chair Kimball.
Thank you. So before I begin my report, congratulations are in order for two of our presidents, CSU Bakersfield's President Lynette Zelezny and Cal State East Bay President Kathy Sandine, each of whom is being honored with their alma mater, Humboldt State's Distinguished Alumni Award. This points to a truly remarkable point of distinction for Humboldt State, which now counts 5 sitting presidents among its alumni, including the presidents at the University of La Verne, Westminster College, and North Dakota State, in addition to Bakersfield and East Bay. So congratulations to Humboldt State and to Presidents Zelezny and Sandine. And as I told Tom last night at our breakout reception, there must be something presidential in that Humboldt water. He said it's the fresh air. And now to my report. Earlier today, I mentioned our optimism in the face of continued uncertainty caused by the COVID-19 pandemic and the steps we are taking on our road to recovery. Let's take a closer look at what that road looks like. While COVID-19 remains a serious, indeed lethal threat, hope is on the horizon. Infection rates continue to drop, new therapies continue to emerge, and California is leading the way in vaccinations. As we all know, vaccine distribution is critical to the recovery of our communities, state, and nation. The CSU is playing an important role in that recovery, and we're making great progress. More than 12.6 million vaccines have been administered across our state. That's by far the most of any state in the US. In fact, if California were its own nation, it would rank 5th in the total number of vaccines administered around the globe. The vaccines are a miracle of modern science. They are safe, they are effective, they are saving lives, and they are being administered on 13 of our campuses in collaboration with city, county, state, and national partners. In total, more than 250,000 vaccines have been administered to date on CSU campuses. In February, Cal State LA became one of the nation's first large-scale community vaccination centers as part of the Biden administration's effort to boost COVID-19 vaccine distribution across the country, specifically in communities that have experienced a disproportionate number of cases and deaths. Run by FEMA and the Governor's Office of Emergency Services, with support from the U.S. Department of Defense and the California Conservation Corps, the center has the capacity to vaccinate 6,000 people per day. The center is also conveniently located near public transit routes and major freeways to ensure maximum access for the local community. Meanwhile, hundreds of CSU students, faculty, and staff are serving on the front lines, on our campuses, and in their communities to help get shots in arms, especially among our state's most vulnerable populations. Among those on the front lines are nursing students from the CSU Channel Islands who are volunteering at vaccine clinics in Ventura and Los Angeles counties, and Fresno State, where students are volunteering to administer vaccinations in rural areas of the Central Valley. And while the CSU serves an important role in distributing and administering vaccines, researchers across our university are finding new solutions to stop COVID spread. As just a few examples, Cal Poly Pomona faculty are helping determine how to kill the virus on personal protective equipment so that the equipment can be reused. At San Diego State, faculty are protecting vulnerable communities, specifically Latinx, African American, Arabic speaking, Tagalog speaking populations from the virus through contact tracing and setting up rapid testing sites in high risk areas. Fresno State researchers are looking closely at how quickly the virus circulates and dissipates on public transit and which strategies most effectively prevent virus spread in these settings. And at Cal State LA, faculty are using artificial intelligence to develop a predictive model that determines the health and mortality risks of COVID-19 patients. While our campuses continue to find solutions to the global public health crisis, supporting our students remains our top priority. And despite the challenges of the pandemic, we've discovered and developed innovations that will ensure that current and future students from all backgrounds receive the help and guidance they need to achieve lasting success. During the pandemic, CSU campuses have employed artificial intelligence to reach out to students. These chatbots are being used on 8 of our campuses. They're immensely popular and were recently featured in a front page story in the Los Angeles Times. With names like Billy Chat at Cal Poly Pomona and EchoBot at the CSU Channel Islands, the chatbots use information from campus staff to provide quick answers to financial aid and registration questions, to connect students with advisors and counselors, create Spotify playlists with students' favorite songs, and even offer positive, uplifting messages to those who simply need a word of encouragement at a time when so many feel anxious, isolated, or depressed. I recommend that we get a trusty bot. That would be helpful. The chatbots strategically connect with students most in need of support, including first-year students who are the first in their family to attend college and those enrolled in entry-level courses with high fail rates. Data so far show that the chatbot program correlates with better credit accumulation and retention rates. This is just one of many examples of how our campuses are advancing innovative and creative ideas to provide students with the essential support they need to persist, graduate, and reach their career goals. This support is more essential than ever, as our students will play a vital role in the long-term economic recovery of our state. Governor Newsom, in his January budget proposal, pointed out the important role of higher public education in driving our state's economic vitality. As Chancellor Castro mentioned earlier this morning, since our last board meeting, Governor Newsom further underscored that point and, working together with our legislative leaders in the state Senate and Assembly, reached an agreement to completely restore prior cuts to the CSU budget. This welcome investment will pay great and lasting dividends. I believe the Chancellor will be sharing some thoughts regarding that return on investment shortly. California's increased investment in the CSU over the past several years has resulted in record graduation rates under Graduation Initiative 2025, ensuring students of all backgrounds continue to have the opportunity to earn high-quality degrees and become the innovative leaders who will help strengthen the economy, serve our communities, and propel our state to lasting success. This is the uplifting news in a year that has challenged us in unimaginable ways. While these challenges may have changed our lives over the past year, they have strengthened our resolve to drive positive change on our campuses, in our communities, and across the nation. Although we may be temporarily separated by distance, the CSU community has remained unified in its mission to advance inclusive excellence and ensure every student, regardless of background, race, ethnicity, identity, and orientation, has the opportunity to earn a life-changing degree, as well as the once-in-a-generation opportunity to contribute to the full recovery of our state and nation after a crisis for the history books. That concludes my report. Chancellor Castro?
Thank you, Chair Kimbell. I decided to come down to the Dumke Auditorium just as a preview for when we're going to all be together, I hope, at a meeting later this year. Your chairs and your desks are all safe and sound, and we're looking forward to being back together here soon. This morning in my opening remarks, I provided a brief budget update and spoke of how the CSU can return on state investment. And specifically, I was referring to additional investment in our graduation initiative 2025, with the return being in the form of improved retention and graduation rates, as well as the closing of equity gaps between first-generation students, low-income students, and students of color and their peers. Of course, we assess the CSU's return on the investment, or ROI, measures, degrees earned, national value or bang for the buck rankings, social mobility statistics. These are just a few examples. My favorite Cal State ROI metric is perhaps a little more subjective, but certainly no less meaningful. It's those stories I hear daily of lives transformed, family trajectories forever changed, potential realized and dreams fulfilled, thanks to the benefits of a CSU degree. But today I want to focus on ROI in the more traditional sense, economic impact. The CSU is nearing completion of its third economic impact study, the first since 2010. It will not only confirm, but quantify the CSU's varied and consequential contributions to California's economy in terms of labor income, state and local tax revenue, job creation, and dozens of other measures. The research is being finalized and the data will be released in the coming days. But not wanting to keep you entirely in suspense, I'll preview one of the report's most significant findings. It's the classic ROI measure. The study finds that for every dollar the state invests in the CSU, the university returns almost $7 in economic output. That represents an almost 30% jump over 2010. And when the impact of the enhanced earnings of Cal State alumni is factored in, the CSU's ROI jumps to more than $23 in total economic activity for every dollar invested by the state. And on the topic of our alumni's enhanced earning power, I'll share one more of the study's findings that caught my eye. CSU alumni still active in California's workforce in 2019 earned incrementally higher earnings of $70.6 billion because of their CSU degree. I highlight the ROI finding not only because it is an extraordinary rate of return, but also because it demonstrates the inextricable link between the CSU and California's current and future prosperity. And it is an indicator of the critical role the university will play in helping drive the state's economic recovery. I encourage all of you to review the full economic impact. It's an eye-opening and comprehensive research study and a wonderful reflection on the CSU and our faculty, staff, students, and alumni. Since our last meeting, I've begun a bit of research of my own, having completed the first 3 of my planned visits to each of our 23 campuses in my first year as chancellor. I want to thank the entire campus communities at CSU Dominguez Hills, Cal State San Bernardino, and Cal State LA for being such gracious hosts. The energy, the campus pride, and the sense of community, even as so many of our classes, support services, and activities remain virtual, were palpable at all three campuses, as was the resilience, adaptability, and resolve of the students and the faculty and staff who serve them. I was struck by the enormous pride the Dominguez Hills community rightly feels in its rich history, a campus that rose from the ashes of the Watts Rebellion as a beacon of hope for higher education, as a catalyst of change, a legacy the campus honors and advances every day as it transforms its students' lives and elevates the community it serves. And the indispensable role Cal State San Bernardino plays as a vibrant educational, cultural, and economic hub in its region, with almost 9 out of 10 students coming from the Inland Empire and serving as a national leader in social mobility for a student body that is comprised of almost 84% first generation to college students. And Cal State LA, a national model for social mobility and the site of just one of the federal mass vaccination centers in California. I was particularly impressed by a virtual adaptation of War of the Worlds, which was led by faculty and performed by a group of students who were physically separated from one another, but brought together by their incredible creativity and innovative use of technology. I hope that you'll be able to see it sometime soon. Of course, these are just a few lingering impressions. I could spend many hours recounting all the accomplishments, innovations, challenges, needs, and plans for a bright future that were discussed during these visits. Each has been a wonderful listening and learning opportunity for me and for Mary, and I'm sure that they will continue to inform and enrich my tenure as chancellor. And while I value and am grateful for each meeting with every campus constituency, the conversations I shared with the campus's students stand out. They have faced so many challenges. They've endured so much. They recounted stories of such suffering, the loss of loved ones, the loss of jobs, homelessness, food insecurity, isolation, deportation of a parent, the realities of what we're going through during this pandemic in the United States. Of course, and tragically, their stories are shared by so many across our state and nation, and my heart goes out to all who have suffered. But what was unexpected about these conversations with students was the heartbreaking simplicity of what they asked me as chancellor. They asked for understanding, compassion, empathy, flexibility. I pass their words on to you today. I'm sure that they'll linger with you as they have with me. I urge all of us at the CSU to consider these words: understanding, compassion, empathy, flexibility, as guideposts as we continue to navigate this historic moment in time. In closing, I'd be remiss if I stepped away from the podium this afternoon without thanking again Garrett Ashley for his 12 years of truly distinguished service as Vice Chancellor of University Relations and Advancement. We're grateful for your service to the CSU, Garrett, and I'm glad you're going to just be down the road with Fram at Fullerton. I also want to thank Larry Salinas for stepping up to be our new interim Vice Chancellor for University Relations and Advancement. I know that Larry's going to do a great job in this role. Finally, our technology, we're working together on the technology. I finally want to just say thank you to each of the trustees for your leadership during this time, and especially you, Chair Kim Bell, for your leadership of the board. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Chancellor Castro. And I can't tell you how excited I am to read that economic study. I think, wow, where do you get a 700% return? I think we should have t-shirts made up. $1 turns into $7. That's amazing. So now we are going to move to President of the Academic Senate, CSU, Dr. Robert Keith Collins, to provide his report.
Thank you very much for this time, Chair Kimball, and good afternoon, everyone. I hope that everyone is doing well, taking good care, and staying healthy. It's an honor to offer this report to the CSU Board of Trustees on behalf of the indefatigable senators of the ASCSU. Greetings from the land of the Gwichinolone in Richmond, California. Happy Women's History Month, and happy belated St. Patrick's Day. Quote, women who fought and sacrificed so much for equality and liberty and justice for all, including the Black women who are often, too often overlooked, but so often prove they are the backbone of our democracy, end quote. When a favorite fellow Oaklander spoke these words, one of her goals was to assert that the value of women in our democracy is always evident, but often goes unrecognized, and thus society is in frequent need of a reminder. Today, and as it is Women's History Month, I would like to recognize the value of the women on the ASCSU and in the CSU. Those who enabled shared governance on their campuses, those who share their knowledge within our classrooms, and those who staff our services with their men colleagues and enable the success of the graduates that we produce in the state of California. Thank you. This fight and sacrifice I see you all sharing with this Oaklander, now Vice President Kamala Harris of the United States. This collaborative agency has also enabled the ASCSU goal of common unity in 2020-2021 and honors the character of the matrilineal first stewards and caretakers of the lands that comprise the locations upon which our communities of higher learning reside. Preceding our March 18th, 19th plenary, the ASCSU Executive Committee engaged in rigorous legislative advocacy with ICAS, Intersegmental Committee of Academic Senates. ICAS is a committee of the Academic Senate leadership from the CCC, CSU, and UC, and meets regularly to address matters of academic and curricular importance to all three segments. This year, the committee is chaired by the ASCSU, myself, and will rotate next year to the UC Senate chair. On March 3rd, 2021, I had the honor of hosting legislators and staffers for the ICAS Ledge Day. Central in these meetings were the discussion and presentation of the following ICAS priorities. Number one, funding and resource supports for all three segments. Number two, faculty diversity and professional development. Number three, formerly incarcerated student success. Number four, further reducing barriers to student transfer. And number five, one which we all can agree upon, mental health. During our March 18th and 19th plenary, the ASCSU engaged in another robust agenda comprising 19 resolutions. 9 were approved and 10 appeared in first reading. Those approved included, but were not limited to, the following. The first, faculty emeritus status revocation and appeal. This resolution recommends that CSU campuses review their emeritus emerita policies on granting and revoking this distinguished status. The second is endorsement and adoption of the General Education B4 Mathematics Quantitative Reasoning Course Guidelines, first reading and principles. This resolution endorses the document CSU GE Area B4 Mathematics Quantitative Reasoning Course Deadlines and Principles, and that was approved unanimously by the CSU Math Council on April 10th, 2020. It also requests that the next revision of the UC-CSU guiding notes for general education course reviewers incorporate the guidelines and principles from the CSU Math Council documents, and strongly urges local campus bodies to adopt these guidelines and principles for B4 certification. The next, call for a moratorium on algorithmic image recognition technologies in the CSU outside of academic research. The next, in memoriam, Deborah Hennessy, Academic Senate CSU Director, from 1981 to 2003. This resolution celebrates the life and passions of former ASCSU Director Deborah Hennessy. The next, on the use of remote proctoring software for assessment. This resolution urges faculty to avoid the use of remote proctoring software to create an in-person exam experience in a virtual setting that may encroach upon student privacy, and asks the CSU Chancellor's Office to negotiate system-wide contracts with remote proctoring services and service providers to ensure that adequate data and privacy protections are included. The next, ensuring safe campus repopulation. This resolution urges the CSU, the Chancellor's Office, to ensure campus repopulation plans are developed through established practices of shared governance in collaboration with faculty. The next, the 2021 legislative advocacy positions of the Academic Senate of the California State University. Next, one which is very important for faculty, addressing burnout within the CSU community. This resolution commends the CSU Chancellor's Office and campuses for their development of basic needs resources, well-being programs, and strategies that enable faculty, staff, students, and administrators to counter emotional exhaustion and maintain interpersonal connections during and after the COVID-19 pandemic. This resolution also urges campus senates and administrations to accelerate the implementation of strategies to address and remedy faculty, student, staff, and administrator burnout, and promote educational and work environments focused on well-being. The next, solicitation for membership in an FDRG for ethnic studies. This resolution establishes the foundation for the ASCSU to issue a call for CSU faculty experts interested in contributing as members of an ethnic studies faculty discipline review group and working through the CID process towards the possible creation of an area of emphasis transfer model curriculum, or TMC, in ethnic studies. There are three resolutions that I would like to bring to the attention of the Board of Trustees. The first addresses the concerns about common transfer pathways across the CCC, CSU, and UC. This resolution urges support for the current collaborations, especially through ICUS, between the CSU and the CCC to continue so that articulation lends to the clarification of criteria for community college and CSU transfer. The next is enhancing student advising services during implementation of the ethnic studies requirement. This resolution reaffirms the ASCSU's support for a system-wide ethnic studies requirement and urges advising services, including faculty advisors, to be trained in the new ethnic studies requirement and its relationship to other degree requirements, both in GE and in the major. And then finally, one which is self-explanatory, recognizing the disparate impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on women in the CSU. In closing, if we allow Vice President Harris's words to serve as a maxim, then it is through our collaborative agency, through fight and sacrifice, that will enable faculty and student success and lend to the creation of pedagogies that take appalling acts of anti-Asian hate that we saw in Atlanta, for example, and turn them into academic knowledge and pedagogies, like that which is being accomplished by the collaborative StopAAPIHate.org, that empower our students to reduce barriers to equity, success, unity, and well-being for all. Thank you, Chair Kimbell. This concludes my report. I thank you all for your attention and time, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
Thank you, Dr. Collins. Moving on to our next report, President Zara Karabit will be providing the CSSA's report.
Good afternoon, Chair Kimbell, trustees, campus presidents, and guests. Before I begin my report, there are several acknowledgements that are in order. It has been a year since we have transitioned into a virtual environment. In this moment of reflection, it is critical to recognize both the successes and the challenges we have all had to face as a result of the pandemic. Secondly, as we hope to return to a new normal, we are reminded of the gun violence and the racist attacks that occur in this country. My thoughts are with the victims and their families of the Colorado and Atlanta shootings. Now on to my report. A special shout out to Christopher Roulette, our communications and marketing specialist, on the refresh to our website. It was a critical and necessary change so that the organization is accessible, particularly in a time where we are all virtual. I encourage each of you to check out our new website at www.calstatestudents.org. CSSA is currently conducting an assessment of our Student Involvement and Representation Fee, SIRF. We are working alongside Cal State Fullerton student-run PR agency, Practical Advantage, to learn more about how SIRF is communicated to students and campus administrations. March is a particularly notable month for us as we do the majority of our advocacy work with the legislator. Earlier this month, we held our California Higher Education Student Summit, CHES, where over 200 students virtually joined us to learn about CSSA's priorities and how to advocate on behalf of students. It's important to let you all know that for several years now, CSSA's key advocacy efforts have been on financial aid reform, and we have utilized this conference to educate students on this issue. Furthermore, at the March meeting, CSSA officially took a support position on the following bills: AB 245, Educational Equity on Student Records; AB 53, which would make an election day a holiday; AB 396, CalFresh Educational Programs; AB 288, the California Ban on Scholarship Displacements Act of 2021; AB 376, Menstrual Products; and AB 940, the CSU-sponsored bill on college mental health services. I did want to take a moment to thank Ryan Storm, Dr. Woods, Dr. Lolo Hong, and President Nelson for attending our conference. I also want to recognize the special awards that we give during this conference. Our 2020-2021 Student Advocate of the Year is Noah Marty, a student at Sacramento State, for his dedication and passion towards advocacy of CSU students. And our 2020-2021 Legislator of the Year is Secretary of State Shirley Weber for her work on ethnic studies. During our February and March plenary, we have had several discussions on basic needs. Our board has passed a resolution in support of having food pantry access to CSU students regardless of their campus, which we thank the Chancellor's Office for already implementing this initiative. Furthermore, we have had several conversations about campus safety and the role of the university police departments in the CSU, and as a result, I have called for a task force that is made up of 14 students across the system. The purpose of this CSSA task force is to research university police departments and their impact on CSU students to provide recommendations to the CSSA governing members. We have also had conversations about supporting students who belong to the Swana community, also known as Southwest Asian and North African, who are often misrepresented as white in data collection at the system-wide state and federal level. CSSA, alongside student advocates who worked with Assistant Vice Chancellor Ed Sullivan to ensure that future CSSA applications have a distinctive category for students that belong to that community. So we really appreciate the simplicity of allowing this process to occur in a short timeline. As I mentioned earlier, CSSA has always prioritized financial aid and CalGrade reform. Our board will be looking to take a position on AB 1456, the Cal Grant Reform Act, at our April plenary. This bill will address a number of issues that CSSA has long advocated for, including addressing the total cost of attendance. For years, we have heard countless stories from students that the current cost of attendance does not accurately reflect the financial burdens students have to carry to obtain their degree. We feel strongly that CSAC has consistently demonstrated how CSU students will positively benefit from this bill, specifically the significant increase in number of students that will be eligible to have tuition and fees covered, increased access to CalFresh, and the elimination of barriers for African American, Latino, adult learner, and student parents. For those reasons and many more, I feel confident in recommending a support position to our board. CSSA has also recently completed our process for the student trustee search and have submitted names to the governor's office for his consideration. And lastly, CSSA supports any action by this board that will highlight and educate faculty, staff, and administrators about the experience of our students, and we thank Trustee Kames for her continuous diligent work on this issue. There are several positive impacts on our students from recent federal news. First, the allocation of the HERF funds, which is critical to support our students during this pandemic and its impact on their financial situation. Secondly, the American Dream and Promise Act of 2021, which brings much hope and relief to our documented students so that they can pursue a life and future without fear of deportation, a much needed first step in reforming the US immigration system. Some congratulations and thank yous. Congratulations to Garrett Ashley on his career with the Chancellor's Office, and we wish you well as a member of the Titan family. Congratulations to Dr. Wood on your appointment as interim vice chancellor. We appreciate the efforts you have made to ensure that the student voice is heard and acknowledged. A thank you and a shout out to Larry Salinas, who has always been a friend of CSSA. And a very warm thank you to Chancellor Kanzler for his continued open communication with me. And I look forward to having you at our April plenary and our town hall event in May. To wrap up my report, I must address the fall 2021 reopening. As you've heard during public comment, students are both eager but nervous to return to campus. While we look forward to a majority of courses being in person and being able to share in community again, we also encourage all campuses to actively engage students in their campus repopulation plans. Now more than ever, we must work together to ensure that our campuses are safe and students are not left behind. I would be remiss if I did not also stress the importance of continued flexibility with virtual instruction services as well, whether it's for international students that are not able to return due to visa and immigration barriers, or for students who are unable to find housing and food. Thank you, Chair Campbell. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Zara. Our final report will now be from Michelle Power, President of the CSU Alumni Council.
Thank you, Chair Campbell. On behalf of the CSU Alumni Council, I wanted to extend a very warm welcome to Dr. Wood. We look forward to working together and using the collective voice of our nearly 4 million global CSU alumni to support the important work of your office, especially the goals of Graduation Initiative 2025. We wanted to also take a moment and share our true appreciation to Vice Chancellor Garrett Ashley for his 12 years of service to the CSU. Under his leadership, we have reaffirmed our commitment to alumni, connecting with graduates living throughout the US and abroad. His support of regional alumni networks has provided additional ways for us to stay connected with our graduates and support them as they transition throughout their career. We are excited to build on these efforts and look forward to the leadership of Larry Salinas as he serves as interim vice chancellor. Normally in my report, I shine a spotlight on our inspiring alumni and their positive influence on the world. Today, I'm flipping the script and sharing stories about how the CSU has changed the lives of our alumni. Over the last few months, we have hosted system-wide virtual international events for alumni living in London, Hong Kong, and Tokyo. At each of these events, alumni have been asked to share a word that comes to mind when they think about their CSU experience, either as a graduate or as a student. Overwhelmingly, the most frequent words we heard were transformative, opportunity, community, diversity, life-changing, welcoming, inspirational, empowering, and supportive. These are the exact words I know I would use to describe my experience both as a student and an alum, and certainly the reason we all work to support and guide the CSU. During these virtual events, alumni also shared stories about what the CSU means to them, the life-changing influence of a CSU education, and the doors it opened were a common thread in these stories. The CSU provided the confidence to reach their full potential, the proper tools and connections for alumni to launch their own business, become industry leaders, and countless career opportunities. The result is an ever-growing network of fellow CSU graduates, no matter where in the world they end up. Whether our graduates live in the local radius of their campus or 7,000 miles away, they are enthusiastic about the CSU and remain our biggest advocates. The story of the CSU told by our alumni is one impactful and valuable. It is a story that resonates with student, faculty, staff, parents, industry leaders, community members, and legislative leaders. Given the impact of our nearly 4 million CSU alumni, the Alumni Council is partnering with Advocacy and State Relations for Alumni Advocacy Month. In April, alumni will partner with campus government relations efforts for legislative visits, making phone calls, writing letters to tell the story of the CSU, the value and social mobility a degree from the CSU provides, and encourage support for universities' budget request and sponsored legislation. We look forward to these conversations and the opportunity to work together to ensure the CSU is fully funded to support student success. And thank you, Chair Campbell. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Michelle. It's now time for the board to consider the items listed on today's consent agenda. All of the committee items requiring full board approval are listed on the consent agenda. Trustees, again at this time, please ensure that you unmute your audio. Does any trustee wish to remove any item from the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the remaining items listed on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Ms. Kiss, please take a roll call. Vote.
Okay. Trustee Abrego,
Yes.
trustee Adamson,
Yes.
trustee Rambula,
Yes.
trustee Carney,
Yes.
Chancellor Castro,
Yes.
trustee Clark,
Yes.
trustee Day, trustee Fagan, trustee Farrar,
Yes.
trustee
Here.
Furstenberg,
Yes.
trustee Fong,
Yes.
trustee Kames,
Yes.
Chair Campbell,
Yes.
Lieutenant Governor Konalakis,
Aye.
trustee McGrory,
Yes.
Governor Newsom, trustee Ortiz-Morfett,
Yes.
trustee Reyes,
Yes.
Speaker Rendon, trustee Sebelius,
Yes.
trustee Simon,
Yes.
trustee Steinhauser,
Yes.
trustee Taylor,
Aye.
and Superintendent Thurmond. The consent agenda is approved.
Wonderful. So the items listed on the consent agenda are approved, and this concludes the business of the January meeting of the Board of Trustees. The board will reconvene for their next meeting on May 17th through the 19th, 2021. Notice of the meeting will go out in ordinary due course 10 days in advance of the meeting. See you all then and stay safe.
Bye.